This is the Convo Lounge. Expression, exposure, experience.
Welcome to Convo Lounge, a podcast, yet another exciting episode, expression, exposure, experience. And today we're taking you on an experience of something great, something awesome that we did with the youngsters, a student out at Ikageng Junior School in Metsimotlhabe. And we're just going to be talking about that today so that you could get a feel of what we talk about when we say Convo Lounge experiences. Yandile.
Absolutely. I think this was the first time where we took a practical experience of what we've been talking about. Having a local brand that is interested in transferring their knowledge and skills to build talent communities in schools. And what was interesting, Bakang, Ikageng specifically, I think when we're doing some of our initial research, we found that how far is Metsimotlhabe? It's like a 15-20 minute drive if there isn't traffic from gaps. But majority of the young people there is perceived that they don't even know what Gaborone looks like. They don't have an exposure. They've never been here. And it was shocking to us because, if a village is 20 minutes away from Gabs and people are still not exploring this capital city where economic opportunities are, what more about, a young person you know what I mean? So that was the first thing, and we got the chance to take them on a learning experience. At Convo Lounge are all about experiences where they get to come and see what's happening in the capital city, and not just a casual drive, really core places in the city. We took them to the mass media complex. The mass media complex is probably one of the most important institutions in the country because it's responsible for disseminating information to the public, shaping the public narrative. And then we took them to, I believe they also passed by Debswana. Debswana is the largest private sector employer in the country. I think about 11,000, 5,000 being employees and 6,000 being contractors, directly engaging with the value chain. And so they got to go to their headquarters at the corporate center, just to also have an interaction with some talent at Debswana. Interesting insights they didn't know. I think 95% of them didn't know what Debswana is. But there was another kid, I don't know if you remember his questions, Bakang, who was asking some really deep insights, and I was wondering where he's coming from. Yeah,
because even just another thing that they went to was the Botswana Parliament, maybe just to understand the legislature, the laws of Botswana, how we get to. But then also, it kind of really this is where conversations are. When you talk about Elon Musk, what he's doing with SpaceX, there's that space tourism. So you would also get to wonder what other life is there beyond just planet Earth. And I remember also something that he asked was if Debswana is looking to what sort of threat is synthetic diamonds to their operations as a mine? And I was like, so this kid
is informed.
He's informed, But then also what they did was they've gone to the Botswana Parliament. That's actually a very great component of that, to say even the laws of the country, how the laws of the countries are made. The economy runs on the country having a stable government, having a stable governance of how things operate in the country. And when you talk about foreign direct investment, something that we also continue to talk to them about, these different foreigners that are coming into the country, they would want to invest in a country that is more stable, and you need to understand how all of these laws come about.
Absolutely. And I think coming back to the kid as well that was asking questions, in our education sector or even our Ministry of Education, the mission is to create globally relevant talent or young people. And when we talk about the reset agenda and the mindset change campaign that's currently happening, one of the mindsets that we want to inspire within Convo Lounge sessions is a child or young talent or a youth that is curious. And not just curious, what we want to see with the coming sessions that we'll be doing is, can they actually convert this curiosity to exploration of business ideas? Can they convert this curiosity to career planning, to start being curious, to say, okay, well, if Debswana hasn't thought about, mining diamonds in Mars, then maybe I could do something to keep exploring or to keep researching on this particular subject matter and actually add value to industry. And I think one of the things that we want to demystify in Botswana is, to ourselves as young people, is the idea that you need to be 21 or you need to finish university first before you can add value to industry. So yeah, I think that was some of the aha moments that I picked up. The other thing, BK, when it comes to connecting brands with talent communities, that I realized, especially when the young people were at the mass media complex, was the realization that you can be very dynamic in your life. I know some of them were shocked that I've got a background in finance, but here I am doing radio, right? So how does that work? I never went to school for communications or creative multimedia or broadcasting. How does it work? And I think, we recognized the shift in the room when I just said to them, listen, 7, 8 years ago, somebody gave me the opportunity to be in the room just like you are in the room now, and I followed my curiosity. I followed my ability to learn very quickly, and I literally learned on the job. And so don't take this opportunity of being exposed lightly. You might run along with this, and you don't even have to go to university for something like this. So I think that's some of the highlights that we got from the learning experience.
Yeah. And there was a part where somebody mentioned bringing how you were able to do so many things at the same time, getting to multitask, writing the DAG, at the same time you're speaking, at the same time you're thinking about them that are in studio. And I think this really just goes back to, bringing a balance into your own personal life. As a student, how are you able to have these many subjects? I think they do about 7 to 9 subjects, but how do you give all of the subjects that you're doing equal attention so that yes, you might like communications, you might be a writer and artist and all of that, but you also equally have to do well at these other lessons, so that you don't have one that is above the other one and the other one below the other one. Because if I'm going to give you an opportunity, I'm going to look at the excellence across board.
Absolutely. And I think just the idea that the responsibility to make the curriculum relevant is on them. It's not on the parents, it's not on the teachers. There's a computer lab. If you've got a computer lab, you've got access to a radio, you've got access to social media, use that platform to find out what's happening where and how can you participate. What I forgot to tell them was that actually I might not have went to school for, radio, but I can vividly remember Bakang, I think between the ages of 6 and 10, my mother deliberately made a decision not to buy a television. So what that meant is I do homework, but my mode of media that I listened to most before the smartphone and all of that was a lot of radio. So, and not to take that lightly, to say as a kid, every single day I was listening to great presenters, great personalities, learning the art and craft of radio just from observation. And I think that has now translated to some of the work that I do today. And so I think one of the things that we wanted to also, a mindset that we wanted to introduce to them, you can start now to engage with industry. You don't have to wait until you're at university. I think that the last thing for me that we picked up was also introducing them to some of the skill sets or global conversations around talent. You mentioned the school that we went to. They got the chance to get into a robotics lesson or class to know where the world is going and, what are some of the skills that are being engaged on. They might not be able to get these skill sets being taught in the conventional curriculum, but, they got to see that the other institutions that offer add-on subjects that they can complement. So I think that was a really great part of our experience as well, in terms of exposing them to what's currently happening.
Yeah, because even when they went to the school that you're talking about, BrainSTREAM, that's where they are teaching. We always talk about science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, right? How do you bring all of these conversations that are now being had in the global space relevant to them at a young age? And the good thing about BrainSTREAM is that it's targeting these youngsters to introduce them to your robotics, to introduce them to your coding at the basic level. And the good thing about that also is we got into link their visit to BrainSTREAM with the visit to the Orange Digital Center. They have a lab there where they're teaching laser printing, laser technology, embroidery, and these are some of the skills that you're saying, you wouldn't get them in this classroom, but you have students doing extra subjects like your art, your HE, your design and technology, right? The good thing about the program that we did with Ikageng is we didn't take the top tier students. We got to mix them with those that are not really performing well academically, but they have other interests, they have other talents. How then do we expose them to industries where they can strive? When you talk about your laser printing, your the coding, the digital technologies that are there, that is something that a youngster could have interest in that. And once you give them that exposure, they're able to have a seed implant in their head and see how they can nurture it, so that they could maybe perhaps tap into that. They might go into the Form 3 examination, not do so well, but then it doesn't mean it's the end of the road. I mean, the world right now is headed towards having your virtual jobs, having works in the creativity that is going to present itself in many forms. So this is a way for us to say to these students that have different avenues that you could take your career to.
Absolutely. We'll close it off by this, just, as a teaser. Diversity is a big part of what we're doing. And that's why we've got a mix of young talent that we're working with at Ikageng. We've got those that are high performers, like you said. We've got those that are average, but also we have those that might be struggling academically. But we also have those that are differently abled. And we also have those that they probably are smart, they probably are intelligent, but they're just not interested in school.
What I often say is they have energy that needs to be channeled in the right direction.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that diversity, and we're doing it for a reason. The mindset that I believe we need to look into Botswana is the mindset of specializing earlier on whilst we're still in school. You heard the story. You asked him how come he didn't participate in Tirelo Sechal. And he said, no, unfortunately I didn't pass well to be able to qualify for that. So I immediately needed to get a job. But when you zoom into his academics, did he really not perform well? Or he just didn't perform well in areas where he's really not called for? There was the part of writing and English that he was excelling extremely well at, and it might have taken him a number of years before he ultimately arrives at commercializing just the writing skill that he has, or the competence he has in English, to an actual brand ambassadorship deal. And when you really look at it, what does he do? He listens, documents, and tells stories. And so the mindset that we need to inspire both in schools, and the reason why we have a diverse pool, is to even those students to say, you know what, you might not pass all your subjects, but you're certainly brilliant in something. So where is your brilliance? Where are your pockets of brilliance? And so that's what we hope to also inspire, and also inspire the teachers themselves, how they approach talent, right? Imagine if Litsile Tebego today was busy being distracted, it's at 9, it's at 10, you know what I mean? And he has to specialize in all of that. And after that, he has to pick what is he going to study in college college, university, but there was some element in his story where there was an identification of his talent, and that was focused on, right?
Yeah.
So, and whether you know it or not, a story like him, there's an entire value chain around him.
Yeah.
And there's entire, opportunity for jobs around him, just his talent of running, right? And so, that's the mindset that we're trying to inspire as we continue to explore this issue around unemployment, which is both an immediate problem, but it's also longitudinal.
Yeah.
Unemployment, I think you and I had a chance to have with conversations with some great consultants where we were asked the question, where do you think unemployment starts?
Yeah.
And I thought it was immediately after you graduate. And we were shocked to realize that it actually starts from family planning at birth. And so, somebody might be wondering, why are we having, these conversations or giving a platform to young talent in junior secondary schools? And it's to say the unemployment problem has long started.
Yeah.
And so by assisting that young talent at that level, we're already beginning to, in the long term, solve that challenge of unemployment. So, yeah.
Cool. Right. Let's just stop it there. And that was just a teaser. Maybe we're going to have part of 2 of this conversation as we go towards the end of our project at Ikageng Junior School. This is what we call the Convo Lounge experiences, taking these youngsters on learning expeditions around the city of Gaborone, exposing them to the different economic zones that are there in the country. Stick around as we bring you more of this on the Convo Lounge podcast. Bye.
This is the Convo Lounge. Expression, exposure, experience.